By the time you watch this video, Jerome Powell will be speaking or has just wrapped up speaking about the economy in its current state. He's given his thoughts on what he thinks is next to come in the economy and what's going to happen later in this year where people expect him and the Fed to give more rate cuts. Welcome back to the channel. Tune in or go stout. If I had to bet $100 on what he's going to say today, I feel like he's just going to 100% guarantee that rate cuts are going to come. Right now, people think that the cuts are going to be the same cuts that happened in September, about 25 basis points, but I shit you not, if the government opens back up, then we might see a 50 basis point interest rate cut. This is larger than expected, but there are other Federal Reserve members calling for a cut this big. The only thing I think that's keeping Jerome Powell from doubling down on this big of a rate cut is the government shutdown. We've talked before that the government shutdown is not really a big deal in terms of the market or the economy too much. That is, unless you're a federal worker or a service of our military. If that's the case, I feel for you guys. I think layoffs are just starting and this is actually ridiculous. But for the economy, the market as a whole, it does not affect the private sector too much, but it does delay critical information to see how the economy is doing. And by all the reports that we've been going through since August of this year, they have been bad. Jobs on the decline, inflation on the rise, and no certainty in the future. With all those things in mind, it's still pretty shocking that we don't have the concrete numbers for the month of September. We're halfway through October and there's no end in sight. House Speaker Mike Johnson says that the government shutdown right now could be the longest in history, and there's so many things that make it seem like this is very intentional. The shutdown is actively helping the Republicans delay the release of the Epstein files, hold back job numbers, and be a little less clear on the inflation stats that are coming out to the people, which definitely hurts the certainty in the economy and makes people more on edge of what's going to happen next, especially going to this holiday season, but makes Jerome Powell's job even harder. I've said it countless times on this channel, Jerome Powell is not someone I envy. Literally, there's nothing he can do. He's in a terrible position. The data that he's working off is old, and the person that he works for is just crazy. But that's not new. He also served under Joe, so again, he's dealt with bad leaders. But my thinking is that Jerome, no matter what choice he makes, more than not is probably going to lead us into another economical downturn. If he cuts rates too aggressively, stagflation. If he doesn't cut rates fast enough, then he literally hinders the economy from growing and could possibly trigger a stock market sell-off, as well as put unneeded pressure on the housing market, which already has ridiculous amounts of unneeded pressure. News came out not too long ago that most of the people buying houses at this time are investment firms. The same issues we were facing at the start of this decade, we're still facing midway through it. Will BlackRock ever be told to stop buying up single-family homes? Probably not. Also, I just want to give a small history lesson. Everybody has been putting a lot of trust in the Fed or thinks that the Fed doesn't really have much effect. Since we printed all the money at the turn of this decade, people have kind of underplayed the moves that the Fed can utilize to save the economy. But I think you need to understand what the Fed is in place for. This is a little of my personal belief, but I do not think that the Fed is here to protect you or me. It's mainly just to protect the interests of the people above us. And if you look at its creation back in Jekyll Island, it has been at the helm of a lot of our economic downturns. They were the reason that we entered World War I. The Fed could have stopped and bailed out the banks before the Great Depression even took place. And we all remember the Great Recession, where our government bailed out the banks, but stopped just short of a true bailout and left the citizens hanging. And I think that's where we're at right now. The Fed Reserve isn't really playing in the interest of the people. If it was, I think it would be asking for more clear data. But instead, it keeps going off the BLS reports, which are revised and shown time and time again that they're not accurate. Also, with the added pressure coming from the executive office, it kind of taints the independent structure that's supposed to be the Federal Reserve. Should Powell have Trump in his ear telling him to cut rates? I don't think that necessarily helps. At the end of the day, I've said it and I will say it again. Stock market does not equal economy. Stock market does not equal economy. Say it with me. Stock market does not equal economy, especially at a time like this where the economy is hanging on its last leg, and if you ask the average person, they feel more poor than ever. But the stock market is showing all-time highs. The Nasdaq is doing great, S&P is doing great, tech, crypto, everything is doing well. But when we have days like this past Friday, the impact of the bad job numbers, the high inflation, the uncertainty all feel like real life. And I think that's what's so scary about these flash crashes. It's not the fact that it crashed, but a crash on top of an unstable economy just puts more pressure and eeriness in the air. I know it's spooky spooky season, but seeing your 401k wiped out is not the jump scare you want to wake up to. Also, do your gains really matter when the value of the dollar you're spending is going down month by month? Just this year alone, the dollar has lost 10% of its value. Some people say this is a good thing and that it's a strategic play, but honestly, in my head, it makes no sense that we're weakening our currency. It literally decreases your purchasing power. I don't understand how that could be a good thing. If it's only a short-term issue, okay, but this has been going on for a while, and if it keeps prolonging, then it's just gonna make everything worse. But everything's fine as long as the stock market's green, I guess. I think these next few months will be a great test to see if the market is filled with greed or actual opportunity. I'm not saying be cautious and be scared to make any move, but you need to know what's actually going on. I stress having the information before it's released to you because all this stuff is available. You can usually find the information that you're wondering before it's published in a government document. The information's out there. You can check company earnings. You can see these things. And there's just a lot of stress in the system currently. We're talking things like market manipulation, weird Ponzi AI scheme, bubble payment systems, and just the insane amount of leverage that is being used in today's market. That's also something else that scares me that I want to touch on in a future date. People are not even trading their own money anymore. It doesn't matter what social media you're on, you always just hear about people doing insane margins, crazy credit lines, or just tanking random funded accounts they have access to. And while it seems like nobody's being hurt because that money is just on a screen, leverage buyers really put a strain on the system. And I think that's why we see all-time highs at the same time as we see GDP having issues. But again, what do I know? I am a Call of Duty player in the year of 2025. Don't let my bear sentiment stop you from making money in this market. There's definitely money to be had. Just don't put your hand so deep in the cookie jar. There is no rhyme or reason to the things happening. Just this Monday, even after such a terrible Friday, we saw the market rally again and try to recover. But again, I think people are just overzealous. The talks of a trade war being reignited were just had Sunday morning, and just because Trump tweeted out one thing, the whole market changed their opinion. But you have to remember that China has not said anything. If they come out and say that we were not playing around, that this is serious, then boom, another red day, just like Friday. Do I want that to happen? No, I'm still shaking off the fear from Friday. But just like anybody in the market, I know that it's possible. And if you take anything away from this video, just know that anything is possible. Don't get too comfortable. Jerome could get up there and cut it by a whole percentage point. He could say, we're not cutting it at all. Nobody knows, but there's really no great choice. Don't listen to what everyone else is doing. Trust your gut. If it doesn't seem right, it might not be. But I'm just yapping, man. If you agreed or disagree with anything I said in this video, please go ahead and drop a comment down below. I want to know what you guys think. I read the comments. And let me know how close I was to what Jerome Powell actually said in the speech today. I know I'll be watching it. Living like Larry. Like and subscribe to join the thread. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Until next time.
Transmission complete. Signal terminating. This is Ghost Thread, signing off.